Good morning and welcome to the Core Connection. I'm Mira Rubin here with you on Enlightened World Network, and today's topic is it is. Is it is? Meaning, is it is is there an isness out there in the world that we experience, or do we experience our projection or reflection of the world through the lenses that we experience it through? So is there an isness, or is it our projection? So it should be an interesting conversation, but before we get started, let's take a couple minutes to get present. So let's take a deep breath in through your nose and hold it. And imagine clean, crisp oxygen flooding your lungs, flowing into your bloodstream, nourishing all your cells, all your organs, bringing vital life energy to your body and being. And as you exhale any tension, stress, negativity, fatigue. And now let's take another deep breath in through your nose and hold it. And this time, imagine brilliant, bright light lighting you up from the inside out, illuminating, electrifying, and energizing all your cells, all your molecules, your electrons, creating a brilliant beam of light and energy out from your heart out into the world. And as you exhale any remaining tension, stress, negativity, fatigue. And now let's press our palms together and vigorously rub your hands together and feel all that sensation, the friction, the temperature, the pressure. And when you stop, the tickling and the tingling, and allow all those sensations to bring you present right here, right now, into this remarkable physical form that enables you to experience life. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Good morning, Rosalind. Great to be here with you this morning, and welcome to everybody else who's joining us. So this morning's conversation is it is? Like, is there an isness in the world? And if there is it something that we have any capacity to experience outside of the lens through which we view it? Good morning, Bernadette and Jenny. Welcome. So good to have you here with us this morning. And Jenny, I started watching The Dimming yesterday. Very disturbing. The Dimming is a documentary about chemtrails and attempts to control climate through adding all kinds of pollutants into our environment. What a concept. So I have not finished watching it, but it's pretty intense, and it is available on Netflix, I believe. No, you know what? It's available on YouTube for free. So anybody that wants to check it out, you could check it out on YouTube. Anyway, I do understand what you're talking about, Jenny. I do. And I appreciate you reminding me to check it out. So we're talking about is it is. Is there an isness to the way that things are? And this conversation came up yesterday in my coaching group, and it was a really cool conversation. So I thought I'd bring it to you. And the way that it went was one person shared that they were in a meeting, and this one person in this meeting they were so annoying. They just were so annoying. So Jenny and Bernadette are still talking about, it's my bad because I brought it up about the dimming, but Jenny says not a conspiracy. And there are lots of things that are really disturbing that are not conspiracies. So I'm with you there. And Bernadette says we had an air pollution warning 2 days ago, but no report of the cause. We rarely have a report of the cause. Bernadette said that, about the pollution warning. And yeah, this is something that we're contending with, and it's for another day's conversation, because I really want to talk about the isness. So Jenny says, yes, we see the world through our lenses until we discover oneness. You know, until we shed all of these filters through which we see things. So let's go back to this person who was in a meeting with somebody that was just incredibly annoying. And what they also shared was that at some point during the meeting, maybe 20 minutes in, they were like, you know what? This is the way that I'm perceiving this person. What if there's more available? What if I can be present from a space of love, to your point, Jenny, the oneness? What if I can be present to a space coming from love and connection? And they were able to shift their own perception, their own lens, their own perspective. And then this other person that had been so annoying started showing up as a contribution, which was pretty remarkable. Right? Do you think that the other person changed? What's the likelihood that in that split second, the other person changed and all of a sudden went from being annoying to being a contribution? What is it that changed? The lens. The lens is what changed. So what came out of this was a deeper conversation, like when we were talking about good and evil. Does evil exist as an isness out there? Or is it our perception and projection? You know, like this can go really, really deep. I mean, Descartes went to, I think, therefore I am, and the existentialists were all over that, you know, the world is, I believe they were. Now it's been years. Now I'm gonna double back and say, well, maybe it was the existentialists, but that that the world exists as a projection, essentially. And we don't know if there's what's real out there and what isn't. And I think that this is a really important thing to be looking at. One of the things that came up in the conversation was being responsible for our lenses. So when we're judging someone based on the references that we have and that we have, the associations that we have created or developed in the course of our own lives. And this is awesome. Bernadette says, sometimes we're not aware of how we're coming across to another. So when we're confronted with it, it can change the way we express ourselves. Absolutely. So when people reflect back to us their experience of us, that gives us a different perspective that helps us to shift that lens and our perception and potentially our behavior, right? The question is, how do we come to an awareness to be able to make these shifts ourselves? How do we come to the awareness that says this person is so annoying and, oh, this person's a wonderful contribution? How do you move from that one place to the other? How do you move from the place of that person's evil versus it's me projecting my fears out onto that person? You know, how do we shift our beingness in order to shift the world? That's really the bottom line. And when enough of us shift our beingness, maybe the beingness for all of us shifts. Who knows? So Bernadette says we need to look into ourselves as to why we feel they're annoying. Well, I agree, Bernadette, and there are different ways to be able to look into ourselves to see why we feel that person's annoying. Because then we could be justifying that they're annoying because they're very self-absorbed and self-centered, and like we could go into a whole story about why they're annoying, versus how do I shift in order to enable that person to show up as a contribution. The whys are interesting because it can help us in our own evolution. Ultimately, maybe the reason they're showing up as really annoying is because they remind me of somebody else in my life that I had all kinds of trauma with. That could be. And that could be something then that points to an area or possibility for healing, right? I think I'm all about looking at root cause, and this is very much, I'm sorry, I have to answer this for a moment. Thank you. So this is very much something when we talk about taking responsibility for our filters. The challenge is that our filters are generally invisible to us because it's the way we experience the world. So for us, it is an isness. For us, it is an is versus a construct. And so the question that we were grappling with yesterday is how, in the experience of the world as an is, like that is the way it is, rather than that's how it's occurring to me, how do we wake up to the fact that that's a construct? So OMG, Jenny says, OMG, have you heard about the huge bison plan in Wyoming where I was born and raised? They plan digging craters to create filters to draw out the carbon dioxide from the air, then trap and store it underground in box trains. It's annoying me and it's stupid. I want to bring the awareness to contribute to change this destruction. So, it's interesting. Good morning, Sue. So glad to have you here with us. Welcome, welcome. Thank you. And thank you for all you do for Enlightened World Network, Sue. Really good to have you with us. So, Jenny, about the huge bison plan, if it's something that moves you, get involved. Get involved. Bring awareness to the way that there are better solutions than this. This is kind of a silly solution. It sounds silly to me. But hey, get involved. If it's something that gives you passion, get involved. Bernadette says, I try to see people with full potential and always give the benefit of the doubt. The isness for me is everyone, thing, and perceptions are always going to be different than mine at some point. It's true, Bernadette. We assume that people see things the way that we do. We believe the world is the way that we perceive it. And so it's very hard to, or it's a challenge for sure, to step out of that and say, well, what if it weren't this way? What if there's another way to perceive this? And that's a useful question. That's a really powerful and useful question. What if there were a more empowered and empowering way to perceive what I'm currently perceiving? Jenny says, I've got to heal myself to be able to get involved. Well, Jenny, I'm just going to put it out there that maybe getting involved would help you to heal. it'll give you something bigger to work toward. And when that shifts our perspective, where that's coming from for me is knowing that when I took on my purpose, when I took on a sense of purpose, it had me thinking bigger than me, and the world shifted, and it really gave me my life. It gave me more energy. It gave me more vitality. It gave me more possibility and hope and meaning. And it started me or catapulted me into a new dimension of healing. So I invite you to get involved and see what that might do, not only for the cause, but for your healing. Jenny says, I'm in Denver, Colorado, 4 to 6 hours away from family. Well, that's when I say thank heavens for the internet, Jenny, and online networks that we can cultivate, right? And social media, and there are all kinds of ways to be communicating. And I also invite you to look into why people think that that would be a good solution and what the positive intention is of what they're trying to do. And then maybe there's a way to use those positive intentions more positively, more proactively, or more effectively. And so this is what I'm talking about in terms of lenses. I know I've spoken to you about a lot about this course that I took from an organization called Regenesis, and it was called the Regenerative Practitioner Series. And it was very much about finding regenerative approaches to things rather than quick fixes. And the thing you're talking about, Bernadette, sounds kind of like I'm sorry, the thing that you're talking about, Jenny, sounds kind of like a little bit of a misdirected quick fix. Jenny says it would surely be a learning process and experience. Exactly. And that brings vitality and life. So Rosalind says, what color is the sky? Great question. Is it a refraction of light? Light by itself unrefracted has no color. Is the question we are asking, what is true? I think so Jenny says the sky is blue. I think the question we're asking, Rosalind, is, do we have the capacity to perceive truth? Is there a truth with a capital T? We perceive the sky as blue generally because of the way our biology works in interpreting whatever is out there. But the question, the question that we're really asking is to draw us to awareness of the subjectivity of our experience, frankly. That's where the questions come from, is to recognize our subjective experience, to recognize that we interact with a world that is a fabrication. And your fabrication and my fabrication are not the same. And that, what I mean by fabrication is that we may be aware of common events, and our perceptions, our ways of experiencing things are not the same. So one of the people in this conversation was talking about demons and angels, essentially, and this notion of evil. That it was really fascinating to see their transformation in the conversation, because They were talking about evil as something that exists as an is out there. And then recognizing that that experience of evil out there, or that interpretation or perception or belief in evil out there, was perhaps a projection of their inner darkness. And then they were looking at this experience of their inner darkness and recognizing their capacity then to be shifting their experience from this inner darkness to inner light. And so the question is, thank you, Bernadette. Bernadette says, have to go, have a great day, an awesome subject. The Great Awakening, Jenny says. Bernadette, good to have you here with us. I'm so glad you could join us. And yes, this is about shifting consciousness. And ultimately, the fact that our consciousness shapes our experience of the world. So if I believe, for example, that I am, bye, Jenny, thanks for being here. And Jenny says, awareness of knowledge with an open perspective can be powerful. Indeed, absolutely. And so when we think, for instance, if I believe that I'm depressed, then I'm unlikely to register the moments that I'm not. I'm more likely to ignore those moments. Oh, Jenny says I said bye to Bernadette. I got that after I said bye to you, Jenny. Sorry about that. So if I believe I'm depressed, then I kind of cancel out the moments that I'm not. I don't notice them because I have this container that says I'm depressed. So if I'm depressed, how can I register moments of joy? I have this experience with a client who is moving through deep anxiety and believing themselves to be anxious, to be the being of anxious. And so the experience, because of that belief, is I'm anxious all the time. But when we had the person check in periodically to actually see how they were in their beingness, they discovered, oh my gosh, anxiousness was there less than 1/3 of the time. That there were these other feelings. There might have been an undercurrent of something, but there were other feelings that were more prevalent. So Jenny says, you become what you think, you attract it. Yes, you attract it. It's called bias confirmation or confirmation bias, where we see what we look for, even though we don't know that we're looking for it. So I've seen it so many times, and in myself as well. When I've been depressed, or when other people are depressed, we see all kinds of, the world's coming to an end. And sometimes literally we believe the world's coming to an end. And we see all the negativity in the world, and all the things that are wrong, and all the things that are bad. And when we're happy and excited and vital, then we tend to see the things that are hopeful. It's like when you are shopping for a car and you're looking at a particular model, you start seeing them everywhere. It's because your mind is more attuned to that particular car. So then when it occurs in your environment, you see it. There's a wonderful, wonderful video. Oh my gosh, wonderful video on YouTube. And it's often used in seminars. And so as you see this video, it's people playing basketball, I think. And what you're supposed to notice is how many times the ball was passed from one player to another. And so you watch this video and you're really attuned to how many times the ball is passed, and you watch it and count. And then the seminar leader says, okay, how many times was the ball passed? And people are busy comparing their numbers. And then they get to watch the video again without counting and looking for something unexpected. And what happens is that they notice that while they were so busy counting the passes that people were making of the basketball, they missed the fact that there was a gorilla walking right across the basketball field. That there was a gorilla that walked right through the picture, and they didn't see it because they were so busy counting. So I just am so inclined to see if I can find this for you on YouTube so you can check out the link. Let's see if I can find it really quick because I do have to go, but this is just such a phenomenon. And I know that now that I've told you that you won't be able to imagine having watched this and not seen the gorilla, because it's ridiculous, but it's the truth. So here's the, let's see, I'm gonna give you a link. I think it's this one. Here we go. It's called The Monkey Business.
So cozy.
Sorry, it started playing, but I'm gonna see if I can put it in the chat here. If it doesn't come through in the chat, you can go to YouTube and see if you can find gorilla basketball experiment or monkey business illusion. But it just goes to show you how our attention shapes our experience. So I encourage you to check it out and to see it and to realize that truly people did not, and myself included, I did not see the gorilla the first time. True confession. So Jenny says it's darkest before the sunshine. Exactly, darkest before the dawn. So Jenny says, as you practice a change to thinking patterns, the world gets brighter. It absolutely can. Jenny sent all kinds of gorilla emojis. That's awesome. And basketball. I love it. Anyway, is it an is? Or is it just the way that it's occurring to you in the moment? That's the completion of today's message. And I'm Mira Rubin. This is the Core Connection. And I go live here each weekday morning on the Enlightened World Network YouTube channel and Facebook page. And I invite you to check out the other awesome programming on Enlightened World Network, EWN One with the Earth, and Enlightened World Living. I so enjoy and appreciate our time together and appreciate you. And until next time, so much love. Hope to see you again here really soon, 9 a.m. Eastern. Until then, so much love.